So an important point in this video that I'd like to cover is how your coworkers are fake, right? And here's a few tips on how to deal with them based on my advice and not following the standard corporate rhetoric that you're told to follow. We're going to start with a clip from the After Pill, who talks about how your coworkers are not your friends. Let's listen to what you have to say here.
Company environment, a lot of times it's just high school all over again, right? It's junior high school all over again, right? 99.9% of the people never grew up past 13, 14. They still living in the past. They still holding on to grudges that happened to them when they were 12, 13 years old. They never got over that teenage relationship, right? They still upset that they got bullied in school, right? They still got upset that there were nobodies in school. And for the people who were nobodies, once they get some rank in at that job, once they become a manager, once they become a big wig in corporate America, now they want to bully everybody else because they never got over what happened to them as a teenager. Just one big ass fuck fest, right? One big ass, like I said, junior high school frat house or whatever you want to call it. They're a bunch of kiddos, a bunch of teenagers, right? And I've said this before. When I was a teenager, when I was a kid, I used to think just grown-ups had it all put together. They just were so well tailored and just adults, basically. You looked up to adults. You thought adults were adulting. But then when I became an adult, I realized that everybody was full of fucking shit. I realized that everybody is full of fucking shit. And once I start working a job, I realized, damn, it seems like my generation or my age range were more mature than these older cats, right? And that's still how it is. That's still how it is. But like I said, I don't know who needs to hear this, but stop sharing details. Stop sharing your life with people you can't trust. And I'm saying you can't trust absolutely nobody, but be cautious. Be vigilant.
So this is important, right? High school gossip occurred at high school. Of course, it occurs at work too. Paying attention to type of high school dynamics that you're probably used to, that maybe you dread, depending on what your memories are of your time at high school. That's the more accurate comparison to the work environment and the corporate environment than any type of over-the-top office politics analysis that you might get from some so-called corporate expert, right? And it's important that you understand. That's the important point of career advice, is understanding what were you like in high school, where did you fit in, and that's probably similar to how the corporate environment works, which is kind of unfortunate because you would think, if you're hardworking, smart, maybe you weren't valued at high school because you weren't popular enough, you didn't fit in with the normies and the NPCs and parrot the dumb opinions and be into all the popular topics, whatever that would be. You would think you go into the corporate environment and then you'd get valued for all of that time and energy and technical skills you have. But a lot of the times you're not valued that much, even though if you might be doing something important for the company, right? And what he says here is about unhealed child trauma, people who are unpopular wanting to be popular now, things like that. It's kind of very true, right? So whatever the high school dynamics were, that's what the workplace dynamics are. And something that comes to mind would be in terms of politics. I try not to get too much into politics on the channel, but I remember Alexandria Cortez, AOC in America. She's the type of woman who'd want to be like the high school president when they do politics or kind of debates and things like that. And she's the same type of personality that is favored in corporate environments because she's always focused on visibility, being seen, talking the most, things like that. Those are the type of personalities that get rewarded by this society, not necessarily the smartest or the hardest working, right? And what he's talking about, how people project a lot of their trauma, replicating their bully status. If they got bullied at high school, they want to bully people at work to get back at society. Sibling rivalry, people create all these unnecessary rivalry with co-workers. And understanding your playground dynamics, if you really think back of how that worked for you at high school or any time in college, things like that, that's important. All those type of lessons will help you win in the office politics dynamics. And what he talks about adults being teenagers, right? Like I said, many people don't grow up. We have all this phrasing about adulting today, or millennials or Gen Z not growing up. But you also see that in older generations, Gen X, boomers, things like that. A lot of people, they haven't really developed their mind. And I think a key sign of people developing is emotional maturity, being stoic, being calm, rational, unemotional, or detached, and being able to think through things logically. But you see people don't work like that. People don't grow up past that stage. Lots of people are emotionally immature. They're always worked up about one topic or the other in the news, getting over the top emotional reactions, which is really a red flag you should look out for, because co-workers be showing fake outrage, because it might appeal to mainstream society to be outraged about one topic or the other. You have other people who just can't keep their cool in difficult scenarios and might have emotional outbursts against you. I've dealt with that from managers who just have their own personal trauma, and maybe one little thing at work goes wrong and they want to shout at you to take out their personal pain or trauma on you. So you got to be really careful about people. People used to use the punching bag if you don't set clear boundaries, and sometimes, unfortunately, if you're more junior, you have to be on the receiving end without being able to stand up for yourself, without them trying to really undermine you and ruin your career at that company. So the thing is, what ends up happening with society, and I see this actually with, I remember working with someone who was like managing director level, and he was a middle-aged man. He watches Netflix shows all weekends, just seasons and seasons of shows, just sitting there like a kind of mindless consumer. It's really a reflection of character, right? And everyone likes to relax and have fun, but you got to think about these personality types. Like, how does someone reach that stage in life and not be doing things more productive in their life beyond their job, right? Are they not focused on their financial freedom? Are they not having more interesting hobbies? And I don't think we can judge everyone based on how they spend their weekend. But if there's like a pattern there, you really realize the people you're dealing with, even in these high-powered corporate environments, they're kind of low quality people. They might have the PhD or the masters. They might be technically good with some of the aspects of their work, but they're not necessarily the highest quality people, right? So that's something to always look out for in the corporate environment. When you might go into a major company, say you want to go work for Google, for example, or Facebook, one of these top tech firms, top investment banks. You're going to be thinking, oh, I'm going to these high quality people. I've got to be kind of informed on different matters, and I've got to be really good on my A game and be an interesting, charismatic person. And all of a sudden you get there and you're like, oh, this isn't what I was expecting. It's kind of like brain dead groupthink, high school popularity politics games. So it's something to really bear in mind before you step into that corporate environment, and be careful around fake coworkers.
I feed people bait, and not all the times is it a lie. Baiting somebody don't have to be a lie, gentlemen. You can bait somebody with the truth, but see, I bait people with truth because there's nothing you can use against me, right? There's nothing you can use against me. If I bait you with something I'm willing to tell, what you gonna say, right? And 9 times out of 10, I'm just sitting back and waiting until you tell somebody else, which has happened a lot. I've told somebody things and I'll just wait. I know they be talking. I'll tell them something and wait, and just wait until they tell somebody else. And 9 times out of 10, they go and tell somebody else, right? Just because people like to keep up drama, right? Like I said, corporate America, working a job, is just one big ass fraternity. It's one big ass sorority. It's one big ass high school, junior high school. That's all it is. It's grown people acting like damn children, right? That's why long term, I can't work a 9 to 5. Long term, I can't work a job. Like I have no choice but to get into entrepreneurship, because I borderline want to go across people's heads, right? I borderline want to slap fire from somebody, slap the taste out of their mouth, right? Because I'm so intolerant of bullshit. It takes, not saying I'm not disciplined, but it takes that discipline over these years that I've built up to actually control my tongue, right? It takes it. Imagine babysitting. There's so many people who say whatever, do whatever, and they've never been checked about anything, right? Bring back checking. Some men need to be slapped the fuck up out of, right? And some women need to be checked as well. People are out here doing and saying whatever they want to without any repercussions. And the corporate environment, these jobs, it's just one controlled environment. So you can't even really do and say what you really want to do and say to people, right?
So this is very important, right? When he's talking about baiting people. Now, in terms of giving people fake information, I think you should do that if it just avoids problems, right? So sometimes people ask me what I'm doing on the weekend. If I'm doing something productive, relevant to my side business or investments, things like that, it's best not to discuss that at work. Like I say, they'll react positively or negatively. You're investing in crypto, they're going to be like, oh, that's too much of a risk, that's a scam, you don't know what you're doing, you're going to lose all your money. Or if the price goes up, they'll be jealous that you are making money. So what you got to do in terms of giving fake info always just give generic answers. And sometimes people are a bit too pushy for more information, but they just don't, they have to get them to respect your boundaries, and it can be a bit difficult to do that. But a simple thing would be like, oh, what did you do on the weekend? You could just say stuff, you met up with your friends, went for a walk in the park, and went to the local shopping centre or something, right? Some people, I don't know what they're like, and you probably dealt with co-workers like this, they want you to be their kind of entertainment, right? So they want you to give them a funny story that they can laugh at or gossip about later, or they want you to be this super interesting person. And if we really think about how we live our lives, we're busy, we're doing productive things. You know, not every weekend is some big exciting trip with our friends to a foreign country or something like that, right? And that's why you got to create a fake to a certain extent at work, you know, giving a fake weekend event that you did just to seem interesting, just because these people need something to get some information from you, right? And he's got a good point about seeing how people react to what you say, right? If you have certain opinions and they're reacting negatively, you can assume they're going to create some drama or gossip about it later. So it's just about being careful and being kind of as neutral as you can in this very tense social climate we currently have. And what you're saying is very true. It's easy to lose patience. There's only so much you can put up with from normies, NPCs. They hold too much power in the workplace office, in society in general, right? You constantly have to deal with dumb people, gossipy people, things like that. And it does test your patience more than the work itself, because I'm sure with like many people who watch this channel, it's not always the work itself that's an issue. I don't mind doing lots of work. Many of you probably don't mind doing lots of work. It's all the other aspects of it that are just like, oh my God, do I have to have this pointless discussion about my weekend, or come up with a safe, politically correct opinion on this topic that's come up at work? So you have to be careful about these type of things. And like people, like he's saying, they like to take cheap shots at work that they simply won't have the power to do outside of the office, right? So they like to bully you and constantly bait you and poke you with different little comments. So like I say, just be careful about how you deal with these characters, because weak people in reality are given so much strength in this society. And if you look up the term bio-Leninism, which is quite interesting, a lot of the times, you know, the comment section, I know you're aware of concepts like oppression Olympics and cultural Marxism, and whoever can play the biggest victim gets a lot of leverage in this society. But a deeper look at that, the managerial state, you might have heard of that from Orrin McIntyre, but there's another term called bio-Leninism, like Lenin as in the leader of Russia during the communist era, right? And the whole idea is that the way this society works, it puts so many weak, weaselly, low value people who lack morals in positions of power, positions of management throughout the public sector, throughout major corporations, to rule over the strong, the weak are ruling over the strong. And that creates a lot of tension. So you're often smarter than people you're working for, and you're always, a lot of cases, you might be stronger than them, you might have better, higher quality morals and character compared to them, but because of this bio-Leninism thing and the way this system works, it's put so many weaker position to a good puppets for the system to rule over you and control a lot of the times good, smart, strong people. And what ends up happening is, right, these weaker people in positions of leadership, co-workers in some cases, they get away with a lot, like he says, they won't get away with outside the office, right? Bullying you, swearing at you, making race or religious jokes that they get away with. You know, I was working with a co-worker. I'm not the most religious person, but he would refer to himself by the name of a Hindu god, and I come from an Indian background, Hindu background, and he would constantly use that to refer to himself, right? Because his name was slightly similar without giving away too much. And he was a white liberal, right? Always talking about equality, gender equality, race equality, because that benefited him. But he would use that type of cheap shot joke. And I wouldn't do that with other people, right? I'm not going to make fun of someone's religion or race, or if someone has liberal values, I'm not going to constantly make fun of that. But it really goes to show how this society kind of works, where, you know, someone is given more leverage because typically they have more politically correct opinions, that they can poke holes at you, right? Make jokes about you or your race or your religion because they're in the good books of management and nothing will happen to them. And then if you point it out, and what interestingly happened was a year or two later, our management changed and I had an Indian managing director. And this particular white liberal employee was, I don't know, always had a problem with me for one reason or another, like had a problem with other employees. And then the topic came up with that manager, and I pointed this out to him, and he was just like, just write it out off as a joke, because he understood that white liberal employee was quite popular with other management. So there's all sorts of double standards you have to deal with, right? If I made a joke about him and called him whatever words I'm not going to use on this platform right now, to make fun of his values, his ridiculous upside down values. He would always play the victim. Oh, you're having a go at me, things like that. And he would always leverage repercussions if I suggested anything like that. So there's all types of ridiculous co-workers you've got to deal with. Like I say, they have no problem being verbally abusive with you, but they'll play the victim when it's convenient for them. So all types of ridiculousness. Now, a lot of the times the power they have in the office, these weak people, it's an illusion, right? But they really benefit from that illusion, right? So they can be disrespectful to you, be careless with how they speak with you. And it really is something where these type of people have been given way too much power, right? They push their value system on you. And that's the difficult thing with a lot of co-workers being fake. Is I would be, or a lot of people I'm sure who watch the channel, you're kind of neutral, maybe don't push your values, your religious, racial values, your personal values on other people, but they love pushing their values on you. If they believe in gender equality in relationships, they want you to pursue that in your personal life, even though it's none of their business, right? However you live your personal life, anything you mention about it, they want to push that on you. Like, you should be doing this, should be going here, should be doing that. And the thing is, the same way you don't want to apply your standards to them, don't let them apply their standards to you. That's why in many cases, the less you say, the better. Even in those situations where sometimes you need someone to talk to and you would prefer at least one co-worker you can trust, you just have to be careful around that. So we're going to go through a bit more helpful advice here.
Speaking of, at all costs, money. Talking about money with your coworkers is almost always a bad idea. Whether it's your salary, the price of your house or car, an inheritance you are expecting, pretty much in any context. Unless it's something harmless, for example, they might ask what you paid for a certain item in concrete. It's best to stay clear just about any discussions about money. Health problems, your relationships, dating or sex life. In the office, your best bet is to spare your coworkers the details of your love life. Being discreet about what you talk about at work is always the best approach for ensuring a proper workplace boundaries. Your love or your sex life is your business and not anybody else's. Problems with your family members. Avoid oversharing any tensions or drama within your family. Everyone has their own family issues to deal with. It doesn't do you any good to share them. Politics or religion. You shall refrain from discussing or getting involved in controversial polemical topics like politics in a mixed company, or you will be hurting feelings and even getting yourself into unnecessary arguments. Your career goals. Keep your professional plans to yourself, and especially if you are hunting for another job. Don't ever discuss it with your coworkers, and needless to say, don't ever use your work computer to do so. Your negative feelings about your job, colleagues or boss. We all have things we don't like about our jobs or people at the office, but complaining about them to your colleagues can be harmful to you first of all. We all know gossip spreads fast in the offices, and it will come around to harm your career in unexpected ways. Any partying activity outside of your work. Letting your colleagues know how much you drank or partied last night is contributing to gossip about you circulating. It only makes you come across as immature and unprofessional. Mentioning any inappropriate things you did will also harm your reputation and will hold you back in your career. Remember, everything you share with your colleagues can eventually come right back to bite you in the neck. If you know in advance what type of things you are willing to share and what you should not, you can create healthy boundaries right from the start.
He's got a good point. He listed a few things you should avoid discussing: money, house purchases, relationships, political opinions. Of course, quite obvious things you should not discuss at work, and have no problem with letting other people have the perception that they're better than you. And that's what they're really looking for in many cases. So that's why it's probably best for you not to mention that you've bought a new house. If they want to say that they've got a massive house, just, I mean, depending on your circumstances, you don't have to discuss you bought your house. You could just pretend you're renting it if the topic comes up. Let them think that they're better than you, because that's what they're looking for, right? When it comes to relationships, you see the double standard. Many times female co-workers will come to work and complain about their boyfriends or their husbands, but men can't do the same without being judged as misogynist or controlling and things like that. And also, there are times of the year where it can be quite stressful and you want to vent with someone because of something in your personal life, but just try not to do it it, journal about it, write a quick message to yourself about it in your notepad, in your phone, just so you get it out your system rather than telling co-workers. Because I know a lot of people around Christmas, for example, they might be meeting up with family, puts a lot of strain on their personal life, lots of maybe heated arguments. I remember co-workers at some investment banks I worked at where they would come back from their Christmas break and they'd be venting about their parents judging them perhaps for being kind of middle-aged and single and not having kids, and that was annoying them. But obviously, other co-workers might make jokes about them behind their back and their personal lives and how their parents are kind of dictating things to them. Politics and religion, particularly now with all these tense environments I won't get into, what's going on in America, the UK, Europe, lots of different views on religion, migration, left and right political tension. Try not to get into that. And then, of course, if you're hunting for a job, you don't want your co-workers to know that you're unhappy about your current position in the company, maybe looking for another internal job, looking for jobs elsewhere. People love to sabotage. They really enjoy the drama, right? And they've got nothing to lose by sabotaging you. If you accidentally mention that you're in contact with a recruiter for other opportunities, or even a little thing that hints in that direction, it will come across like you're anxious at work and that you're not really happy there, and then that will create more negative environment around you, and it might take you several months to find your next job, which will just make your life even more difficult. And you'll have many hard lessons that you'll learn, because everyone makes slip-ups, we're only human, and the corporate environment can be quite unnatural, right? Dealing with backstabbers, gossipers, people you least expect. Even someone who seems quite cool with you, all of a sudden they turn their back on you, right? And also when it comes to social media accounts, where typically people, particularly now, if you have more right-wing leaning accounts, you're on X or Twitter, and maybe you're showing support for Elon Musk or critical of him, showing support for Trump. You've got many other people who have Twitter accounts, and they might be, like I say, critical of leftist views. And you're only allowed to do this through anonymous accounts, because many people, I'm sure many of these guys posting on Twitter have tech jobs or major finance jobs, and they may be on Twitter throughout the day. And that really comes to mind in terms of being able to, have your freedom and your freedom of speech outside of work. The only way you can do it and not put your workplace at jeopardy is through anonymous accounts, right? Which is people do on internet forums, Reddit and so on, 4chan and things like that. So just bear in mind, if you need to vent about a particular hot topic, you can always do it on social media under anonymous name, so you don't get that tension building up in your workplace environment, right? In some cases, if you're on Facebook, you don't want your co-workers delving into your Facebook. You can always block certain co-workers on social media sites. If their contact details on Facebook, you can block them. Or you can have certain facilities, for example, I think on Facebook and even LinkedIn, where your account does not show on public search engines, so people can only search for you on the website. But if someone types your name into Google, it won't come up with your personal profile. You can do little things like that to protect your privacy and stop co-workers trying to be a bit too nosy into your personal life. So we're going to look through a bit more information on how you have to deal with fake friends at work here.
For that person. So I don't want to talk trash about them. I'm talking about the person who pretends to be your friend at work. And once they've gained your trust, they abuse it. They take credit for your work. They throw you under the bus. They would step on you in an instant if it would get them ahead. And quite honestly, if you have had one of these fake friends that's really a malicious coworker, it hurts. A couple weeks ago, we talked about trusting coworkers, and it is so hard when you felt like you had a friend at work that you can really trust, that you had a coworker that you can trust, only for them to reveal themselves to be a fake friend that's really a backstabbing coworker in disguise.
So that's just a short clip there, right? So when it comes to dealing with co-workers, many of them are professional manipulators, right? Like she says, taking credit for your work, bearing on you, stepping on you, pretending to be friendly with you, and then gossiping about any information you share with them to other co-workers. Now, I've dealt with things like that where co-workers were working together, agreeing a particular strategy ahead of a client meeting, and then when they're in front of the client during the client meeting, one of them undermines the others and pretends they don't agree with their opinion. Or people ask you for information ahead of a meeting, and then they take that and present it to senior management to make sure they look better than you in those particular scenarios. So that's all the type of things you need to kind of look forward to throughout your career, which can be quite difficult to consider. Now let's learn a bit more about dealing with these type of fake people.
of a fake friend at work is they are the coworker who is overly friendly. So when you first join a team or you've joined the company, they are the coworker that is coming straight over to your desk. They're like overwhelmingly inclusive in a way that kind of feels a little bit off, quite honestly. Now, this isn't to say that every coworker who welcomes you to the team or welcomes you to the company is a fake friend, but there is a difference, and most people don't go exorbitantly out of their way to explain the dynamics and the politics and everything unless there is a reason for it. Another way to spot a fake friend at work is that this is a coworker who overly inserts themselves into your work and your life. Are they asking to join meetings that you have, requesting to be assigned to the same projects? Are they offering assistance and then later taking credit for the work that you did because of their assistance? Or are they asking overly personal questions about your life that maybe you don't want to talk to coworkers about because work-life boundaries are a thing? They're asking about your relationships. They're asking about your family. They're asking about your shoe size. I don't know.
In life, nothing is faker than a fake nice person, right? Overly nice people, they always have an agenda. I've dealt with those type of pushy personalities a lot. And especially now, when people are on guard about what opinion they're allowed to have, how other people might react negatively. So many people are on guard, which is more natural. I would say it's more natural for people to maintain healthy boundaries and be on guard. So especially now in this era, with how dysfunctional society is, if someone's being overly friendly, they really do have an agenda, because the natural setting of most people in this environment is not to be too friendly, is to have a healthy boundary, because they never know how other people might react. So that's something to really look out for, right? Most teams that have a busybody, or most departments do, always asking too much, and you've got to think, what is their angle? What do they have to gain from this particular dynamic? Maybe you can observe how they interact with others and what they're trying to use others for, whether it's just being popular, gaining information. And lots of leverage in the office is to be gained through gossip, through understanding other people's dynamics in their team, where they might be hiring, firing employees, who's the popular person, who's the next person in senior management. Typically, you'd see contacts like this in HR, who would be these kind of busybodies trying to manufacture everything to benefit them, right? Or to benefit certain power players in management that they're good friends with. So these are the type of things to look out for, right? What do they have to gain? And yeah, like I say, I've had people like this constantly asking questions about my personal life, and I constantly have to provide a healthy boundary, even though they were kept pushing the boundaries too much. And lots of people, sometimes at the same level as you, they see you as competitions. They want to see how to undermine you in any little thing, maybe a bit of a gap in your technical knowledge. They'll go up to your manager and say, oh, he said this before, I don't think he understands it. Can you explain it to him? So rather than you quickly learning something yourself, doing a bit of research online or through your company policies and procedures, they want to make you look dumb in front of the manager. So they'll pick up on little things like that. And like I said, you got to watch out for the drama. People love to stir shit, love to be shit stirrers and spread type of gossip. And a lot of these things and these characters, they're very much enabled by the simps, the beta orbiters, who kind of always play defense for that type of behavior, right? Most men at work, I would say many men at work, they're completely manipulated by these type of dynamics. They can't really see through it the same way they believe happy life, and sometimes their wife is walking all over them and they don't notice it. These are the type of weak characters you have to deal with at work with men, so just be careful with them too. Because you might think, oh, well, other men at work might be able to see through some of this, but you'd be surprised how many of them don't.
Another way to spot a fake friend at work is that they're the coworker who is giving backhanded compliments, which for the record are the worst kind of compliment ever. Just be a jerk. I know how to deal with you if you're being a jerk, and I can tell you how to deal with jerks. But when someone's pretending to be nice and offering these backhanded compliments at work, they're really making the situation much more complicated than it needs to be. Oh yeah, Jennifer, you did such a great job on that project. I guess that's why you took the extra time to complete it. A real friend, including a real friend at work, is going to be someone who sincerely wants to lift you up and doesn't want to drag you down to their level. And the next way to spot a fake friend at work is that they are the nicest to you when they need a favor. They need your input on a project. They need help to get a task done. They need access to some information that only you have. All of a sudden, this fake friend at work goes from being your typical coworker into being the saccharine sweet coworker who is a backstabbing coworker. Now, in fairness, generally, us humans, when we want something from someone, are going to be nicer to them because reciprocity. So it's not really a terrible
So she's got a point here around looking out for fake compliments, which links to the fake nice point I mentioned before and passive aggressive co-workers. I had one male co-worker who's one of the difficult characters I mentioned in several of my videos. He would always compliment other employees by saying they have a nice shirt, and it just became such a common thing that it was just so obvious it was fake, because we knew generally he didn't have a nice personality. He would always be kind of, grimacing at other people's success, always kind of envious. That was his general vibe. So if you wanted to say something positive about someone, oh, nice shirt, oh, nice blazer, it'd always be the same compliment. And then he'll try to leverage that into your conversation where he could get something out of you. And these type of fake compliments and passive aggressive behavior, it does work in many cases, right? And this is what you got to be careful around, people digging too much, and then they'll end up, like you say, indirectly insulting you through fake compliments, talking down about where you live, how you dress, how you spend your free time, what type of holidays you go on, because they want to use you, right? And this brings me on to my other point about focusing on work. You want to try and focus on work, create as much distance as possible, minimize communication, even though that is really difficult now because loads of people spend so much time at work chit-chatting. So I hope I helped you learn from this video how to understand fake co-workers, look out for different signs, different red flags, and how to keep a healthy distance as much as possible from them. I have worked in the finance industry for over a decade at Goldman, Morgan Stanley, many other top firms. I offer career advice, link in description if you want to speak with me directly. I'd be happy to help. And let me know in the comments some of the toxic co-workers you might have dealt with, any funny stories. That would be good to see. Thanks for listening. 2 recommended videos on the screen right now, and I'll see you next time.